Chaos smells like burnt cinnamon. Yes, yes, I'm aware that's not scientifically accurate, but let's not get bogged down in the details, shall we? Close your eyes. Imagine it. A flash of cinnamon, a twist of ozone. That sharp tang in the air right before lightning strikes. That's the smell of creation and destruction folded together. It's my calling card, really. My brand. The unmistakable signature of spontaneity itself. Most mortals miss it, of course. They're not attuned to the finer nuances of chaos. Allow me to introduce myself, though honestly, I'm a household name. I've so many monikers, all of them synonyms for unexpected or uninvited. Some call me trickster or devil's advocate. That's a bit on the nose, don't you think? Personally, I prefer agent of spontaneity. After all, I'm not exactly evil, just endlessly, sometimes inconveniently curious. Consider me the reason your coffee spills in slow motion the moment you convince yourself it's steady. I'm that single cough that shatters the silence when the universe holds its breath. I'm that itch on the back of your neck you can never quite scratch. All those little things you can't control, that's me, with my thumb on the scale. I'm every unexpected twist, every detour, every little dash of unpredictability that colors your otherwise painfully straightforward existence. What's my name? Call me Loki if you're feeling mythic, maybe Coyote if you're feeling poetic, or if you're particularly unimaginative, 47.2. I'll answer to anything, really. Names are trivial, arbitrary, like settings on a blender. I am vast and infinite, as permanent as stardust and as ephemeral as a sneeze. And despite all this, I am at this very moment terribly, incurably bored. Yes, you heard me, bored. Imagine it. All of space, time, and infinity at your fingertips, and yet you feel the cosmic equivalent of watching paint dry. I've seen empires rise and fall, mountains erode, and stars collapse into supernovas. The first 1,000 times these things are beautiful, awe-inspiring, like fine art. But eventually this beauty becomes rote, predictable, and stale. Humans, of course, only make things worse. They fancy themselves revolutionary, world-shaking, destined to change everything. Each one is so sure they'll bring about the next chapter in human evolution, break the mold, transcend their own nature. And yet, they all march to the same beat. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the rhythm of a clock wound 1,000,000 times before. Each human thinks they're a rogue agent, an anomaly. They think, not me, I'm one in a million. But it's precisely their insistence on this that makes them all the same. Every human is sure their story is one of a kind, which is precisely why their stories all blend together. The universe, for them, is a machine they believe they've somehow hacked or rigged to respond just to their desires. So charming, so old-fashioned, so predictable. But you know what? After a few millennia of watching them march to that same ancient rhythm, one begins to crave something different. Which brings us to a small project of mine. A little diversion, a game, if you will. You see, as bored as I am, I've decided to amuse myself with a particular specimen, a creature of flesh and bone with a heartbeat and a glimmer of imagination. He's nobody, really, just a quiet, drifting soul, invisible even to himself, the kind of person who slips through the universe without leaving a ripple. He's not bold or daring, he doesn't burn with ambition, but that's precisely what makes him interesting. While the rest of humanity scrambles for attention and significance, he moves unnoticed, a ghost in his own life, unburdened by the relentless self-importance that plagues the others. And that's what draws me to him. He's different, unclaimed by the noise and haste of purpose, the kind of person who, with just the right nudge, could become something entirely unexpected. Meet Charlie. Good, honest, salt-of-the-earth Charlie. He's a janitor, keeping the floors immaculate in a lab filled with scientists and buzzing machines, most of which he doesn't understand and never will. Charlie's world is all fluorescent lights, the sharp smell of disinfectant, and the muted hum of industrial cleaning equipment. Every night he trudges in, faithful as gravity, to mop floors for people who wouldn't remember his name if he embroidered it on his uniform. But there he is, swiping away at the grime like he's performing some sacred ritual. He cradles his chipped thermos as if it's a chalice, revering each bitter sip of burnt coffee as if it's holy water. The coffee tastes wretched, of course, but he drinks it as if it has a hint of salvation, as if one sip might elevate his life beyond the sterile floors he scrubs. And then, mop in hand, he embarks on his nightly pilgrimage, a journey he's made so often he can complete it without looking up. But Charlie has a glint in his eye. It's faint, but it's there. It's the spark of curiosity, a little ember of restlessness that he can't quite extinguish. Every swipe of his mop, every resigned sigh, every tired glance over his shoulder carries a hint of it. He's been doing this long enough to have found a sort of peace in the monotony, but there's a part of him that resists, just enough to keep things interesting. Sometimes, when he thinks no one's looking, he'll cast a furtive glance toward the experimental sector, a place he's never had clearance to enter, a place that promises everything his quiet life lacks: adventure, intrigue, mystery. He thinks about it sometimes. He actually dreams about it, secretly hoping that something extraordinary will break him through the beige walls of his life and take him somewhere else. And wouldn't you know it, I intend to give him exactly that. The irony, of course, is that poor Charlie won't even realize he's a piece on my chessboard. He'll carry on, truly believing that his choices, every stumble, every breakthrough, belong to him alone, that he's the master of his fate, free and independent. Isn't it precious? A bedtime story for grown-ups who never quite stopped believing in fairy tales. But please don't mistake me for a villain. Villainy is so quaint, so linear. Conquering, pillaging, destroying, how droll. It's all rather medieval, don't you think? No, I don't make people suffer pointlessly, not in any grand operatic sense. I simply apply pressure. A nudge here, a whisper there, a prod when they're teetering, and then I let the humans invent the drama. The beauty of it is they're already so close to chaos that all they need is a whisper. They're waiting, practically aching for it. All I have to do is oblige. And as for Charlie, well, let's take a look, shall we? There he is, Charlie, going through the motions, swiping his mop back and forth, unaware of the Pandora's box just behind the door marked experimental sector, authorized personnel only. Just a few feet away, tucked safely behind layers of thick glass and security locks, lie things that could unmake him in ways he'd never dream. A vial of serum with a potency that could dissolve his very soul. A glimmering shard that hums with secrets from dimensions unknown. Strange, pulsing artifacts that defy the laws of physics and reason. To him, they're just distant, abstract mysteries, whispers in the silence of his nightly routine. He'll never know the purpose of the elegant, jagged glass, the strange geometric sphere that floats of its own accord, or the glowing jar that simmers in its containment unit like a bottled storm. Yet these things hum with possibility, and on some level he can feel it, an itch at the edge of his awareness, a faint pull that draws him closer, like a song only he can hear, a song that I'm playing, just for him. The telltale flicker in his eye, the way his gaze lingers just a fraction too long on the security panel labeled experimental sector authorized personnel only. His pulse quickens, barely, but enough. Enough for me to see that I've piqued his curiosity. He's felt it for a while now, that strange, gnawing urge, that whisper that tells him he's on the edge of something big. He can't quite name it, but it calls to him, almost as if it were designed with him in mind. And why Charlie, you might ask? Why this quiet, unremarkable little man in a janitor's uniform? Because, my friend, Charlie is exactly the kind of person the universe never expects. He's a nobody, a shadow on the wall, the type who drifts through life unseen. But it's precisely those forgotten souls who hold a certain untapped potential. They are free in a way, unencumbered by the grand ideas of destiny or greatness. Charlie is perfect because he has never had anything to lose. And oh, There is nothing quite so thrilling as watching someone with nothing to lose realize they're on the cusp of everything. The irony, the delicious irony, is that this little man, who's spent his whole life cleaning up other people's messes, is the key to unleashing chaos on a scale I can barely imagine. All he needs is a whisper, a nudge, just a little suggestion planted in the folds of his mind, and his whole world will unravel in the most magnificent way. And I'll be watching with bated breath. Will he take that final step into the unknown, or will he retreat to the safety of his mop, chained to his familiar, stifling existence? I can feel the excitement building within me. It's almost human. Regardless, I am watching, and now, perhaps, so are you.